Hello there and welcome to the channel, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about something that nobody else seems to be talking about, which is very strange, and that is regarding your winter maintenance of your tree ferns. Yes, what I'm talking about is the maintenance that you should be providing your tree fern over the winter period. I don't mean get it all wrapped up and leave it and forget about it, because that is a bad thing. There are things you need to do. And before I start, I need to explain to you why we have to do this. And the reason why we have to put in some maintenance is all down to the climate and the environment from where tree ferns, the old Dicksonia antarctica, otherwise known as the man fern, has evolved to survive in. It is a very specific environment. That is why the tree ferns are a very specific shape and architecture. And if you can understand where they come from and how they work as a plant in this environment, then you can easily get these to thrive, survive, and give you a fantastic display year on, year out. Now, if you've ever been down to RHS Wisley, which is indeed one of my favourite gardens in the country, their tree ferns are shocking. So I actually had a little look at their advice for looking after tree ferns, and unfortunately half the information is missing. They're only doing half a job, and that's what they're telling you. What they actually do in practice is even worse, as you will see from this little clip, where it is just trunks with a shrunken crown with very little regrowth, and in most cases these plants are actually dead, which is a terrible shame. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's explain the problem with tree ferns. There are many genera and species of tree ferns around the globe, but we are only talking about this particular one here, the Dicksonia antarctica, a native to Tasmania and the east coast of Australia. And it has specialist architecture regarding its funnel-shaped canopy of fronds and also this thick fibrous trunk. So what is the reason for this? Why does a tree fern look like a tree fern, and what does that matter with regard to winter maintenance? Well, I'll explain it to you. Compared to us in the UK, Tasmania experiences a huge amount of rainfall. Typically, you are looking at between 2 and 2.5 meters across the island, although they can be less in some areas, and it can be more in the mountainous regions, up to 3 meters of rain per year. And to put that into perspective, here in the UK we get about 1 meter of rain per year, and it's this huge amount of rainfall which has created the shape of the tree fern and how it manages that and what it requires to survive. Let's get into it. So this part here at the top is the crown. This is where you get your, this is like your growth point of the tree fern, and you have here this fibrous trunk which is here to absorb and maintain water, but also allows too much water just to pour out the sides of it. And let's just have a quick look at the canopy. So these fronds create a lovely thick funnel shape, so detritus and rainwater can land on the leaves and all get funneled in to the top of the crown just here. Now, according to Wikipedia as well as Monty Don, one of my favourite TV garden presenters, tree ferns can take a winter temperature down to -5 degrees Celsius. I don't think that's quite right. Let me explain it to you. So these are evergreen plants in a native habitat, and we had a period of about 2-3 days of frost. And we had a little bit of frost in these ones, and as you can see, we've already got some discoloration, some damage on these plants, and that's a frost temperature down to about -2 degrees. And we've got it, and even here, look at this. So it's again, you get deaf discoloration. Now, that is not a plant that can tolerate -5 degrees Celsius. And if you check the climate of Tasmania, average winter temperatures go down to about 5 degrees. Now, obviously, you can get plus and minus on that, so it is quite possible for there to be freezing conditions. But don't forget, tree ferns are a mid-story plant, so it could turn cold, but it has the protection of the canopy above it. So those really quite sharp freezing temperatures that we experience here in the UK You're not going to get that in Tasmania, and this is why we have to put in the winter protection. Let's just go into that a wee bit. Now, the crown of the tree fern is the engine room. This is where all the life exists. It's where it produces new root system. It's where it produces all the embryonic fronds in the spring. So this absolutely has to be protected. And typically you would wrap the top of the crown with several layers of horticultural fleece, and then you protect the centre of the crown further by adding further insulation like leaves or even like a big ball of fleece, whatever it is. But the trouble is, quite often people forget about the fronds, or criminally they'll remove all the fronds, so you just have a naked trunk with a little bit of protection on the top and the sides. This is a terrible way to overwinter a tree fern. The reason we overwinter tree ferns is to get them in the best conditions for the spring in order for them to reshoot out their new fronds for the following year's display. Now, if you cut off all of the fronds, you are denying that plant of two things. The canopies you get on these tree ferns can be absolutely enormous, and this is a huge resource that the tree fern has produced from the crown in order to survive, because all this green is full of chlorophyll, and while these are in good condition, they're manufacturing sugars, they're manufacturing starches in order to power the crown so that it can produce new growth in the spring. Now, there's two problems. I see so many people removing these fronds. I don't know what you're thinking of. All the time these fronds are here, then the plant has got the capability of producing energy and starches, the building blocks for new fronds that come in the spring. But if you cut them, not only will it stop being able to produce the energy it requires to power those new fronds in the spring, it's also a resource that if these do get damaged, like some of these here, the plant can then absorb whatever it wants from these leaves back into the ground. So you need all this intact. You can't just go around cutting it all off and thinking it's going to be all right in the spring. The amount of times that I've been out and I've seen people remove all of this, you just have a trunk with a little bit of straw on the top, and you think that's going to work, guaranteed you can have a dead plant in a few years if you keep doing that. And you know you're doing it wrong. Let me show you. Look at this poor little mite. There is nothing going on here. You see how like the crown has started off this big, and then over the years got thinner and thinner and thinner to absolutely nothing. And if we can sort of get the camera in the top there, I don't think there is anything going on there at all. Because on a healthy trunk, it stays the same diameter right to the top of the crown. And so many times I start to see a diminished trunk, weedy little fronds coming out. That plant is in decline. It's all because you've removed the fronds. So what do? Well, you wrap the fronds, wrap them up, protect them, so that they're still on the plant and they still receive light in order to photosynthesize, but they're protected from sharp frosts and the damage that can cause. Well, when conditions allow, so non-freezing conditions, you will still need to water it. Not only will you still need to water your tree ferns over the winter period, I know it sounds a bit odd, you'll still need to feed it. So these are plants that you're watering and feeding when all other plants in the garden are not being fed in the over the winter period. But this is all due to the environment that the tree fern comes from. In its native habitat, over the winter period, temperatures don't get too cold. They only go down to about 5 degrees plus or minus. And if freezing temperatures do occur, they're already protected from the canopy above. So when conditions allow, you need to keep watering your tree ferns. And you won't be watering as much as you would have done during the summer period, but once a week stick in 1 or 2 litres into the crown, and then once a month put in a reduced concentration of fertilizer again into the crown. And I always recommend putting a feed in after the plant is thoroughly watered, because the last thing you want to do is over fertilize your crown and cause problems that way. So how do you water and feed the crown when it's all wrapped up, protected with your fleece? Well, it's simple, isn't it? So as you can see, at least in my opinion, we have some tree ferns that have been overwintered correctly, and correctly because
I did all these myself. So the fronds are still in place, they haven't been cut back like some weirdos do at Wizzy. I never understand why they cut back the frond. It's a terrible idea. And the crown is doubly protected because this is the engine room of your tree fern. This frond structure, when it's open, you know, it's kind of V-shaped or funnel shaped, and it allows a efficient collection of water and debris funneling into the crown. So there's plenty of water going in there, and there's nutritions going in there too. And I mean, look at this trunk here. This is the, like I say, this is the engine room. This is where your meristemic tissues are. So all the fronds are produced here, all your new root systems are produced here. And if you look at this trunk a bit closer, just masses and masses of fibrous roots. See near the top, you still got the end of the fronds here, but you know, as it grows and matures, it's just, you see, it's just a mass of roots. Effectively, this structure here, which is the trunk, is effectively a big water bottle. A bit leaky, it's a bit leaky, but effectively it's a big water bottle of water. It's effectively a big water bottle, so it can maintain condition for the plant. So when it comes to overwintering it, this is a really important element that you need to maintain. So you might say, well, Simon, how do you water it when you've covered it all up? Well, it's not very difficult. Look, you got the this lightweight horticultural fabric or fleece is very easy to tear. So all you do is, you know where the crown is, you tear a little hole. Where's my holes? Let's drop it down actually. You got access immediately. So in there, periodically, maybe once a week, there's some water in there, and pour it into the crown. It's not rocket surgery. And then once a month, you just do a little bit of a feed. You're going to do either what it says on the packet or maybe a little bit more diluted. So once you've given the crown a good watering, then, and only then, to give it a nice little feed. And you might be thinking, Simon, why are you feeding in the middle of winter? Well, look, let's just point out, it's not freezing, there's no snow, but I will explain it more in detail. Hold on, before I do that, don't forget, pack up your hole so your protection is back in place. Well done, Fleece.
Actually, before I get into that, I just need to expand on what I've just said, because I can hear people out there saying, "Yeah, Simon, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. More watering and more feeding over the winter, that's just plain wrong." No one actually speaks like that. But let me just refer you to the climate of Tasmania, because Tasmania receives the most amount of rainfall during the winter months. So temperatures are low, approximately 5 degrees Celsius, plus or minus a few degrees, and it receives the most amount of rainfall during that cold period of time. So of course, if it's constantly raining over the winter and it's a mid canopy tree, it's receiving huge amount of waste detritus from the canopy above that falls into that funnel shape of the tree fern fronds. So during the coldest time of the year is the time that the tree ferns in their native habitat receive the most amount of water and the most amount of fertilizer, which makes sense because that's the time period when the crown is absorbing all of that and growing in situ. You can't see it, but it's happening. So that come the spring, it has everything it needs to power it. So if you don't believe me, you just need to refer to what happens in its native habitat. That's all you need to do. So there you have it. That is my method for winter maintenance of tree ferns, and the proof is in the pudding, because every spring, and we've had these plants for coming up to 10 years or so, check out the girth of the trunk going all the way up to the top of the crown and just see the huge size and power of these fronds as they come out. And you tell me if that's not as good as you've seen tree ferns grown in the UK, then I'll eat my hat. Not this one because it's not edible. But if there's anything you'd like to add to that, be nice. If there's anything you'd like to add to that, any great tips that you have with regard to overwintering tree ferns, then let us know. Put that in the comments so that the other people read the comments can find out too. Anyway, before I go, I've got one last thing to say to you. And with that, see you in the next video. Goodbye. Right, now, just before you go, if you want to see more content more behind the scenes stuff and images that I've taken of some weird freaky plants over the years, then you're in luck, because we've created an Instagram page. So you can find the link in our description, you can find the link on our main page, and if I'm clever enough I might be able to get a link somewhere up there. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you want to see more YouTube stuff, then check out this video here. That's quite a good one. And if it doesn't float your boat, then another one right there. And enjoy these while I still got the strength, imagination and aptitude to make them. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.